Hello and welcome to Life in the Jungle, Season 1, Episode number 9. Yes, and between the Lions and the Bengals, our Cincinnati Bengals are the ones that came out the king of the jungle. So that's always a good thing because, like we said, we love coming on here talking about them after a win. But before we get started, I do want to shout out the number 2 ranked team in the country, the University of Cincinnati. I am a proud fan there, and I do want to give a shout out to the second best team in the nation right now.
Shout out to my alma mater doing some big things on the gridiron. We are exactly 22 days away from the start of basketball season at the University of Cincinnati, which is still a basketball school. But hey, hats off to Luke Fickle and the gang. Much success continue.
No, man, and coming in, no, but get it back on the Bengals coming into this game, and we talked to you, made a post, and you said, I'm gonna talk about it, so we're gonna get it out the way early. We not gonna, you know, drag our feet on this. Uno, Jamar Chase, Panay Sewell for the Lions. Now, now we all know before the draft, everything that happened. My man, the Pharaoh, was a financier, got through and through. But he respected the Chase pick, and at first it was looking dicey. But from what it shows here, to me, we are better. And I just want to put this fine. We're not gonna talk about this no more. But this shows that we made the right selection. And guess what? The best block of the day was by Jamar Chase, not Penasul.
Okay, so I made a post before we came on the air that I was not even going to entertain this topic should Cam bring it up. But because I know it's a popular topic and it will be brought up by other people, I
Yeah.
decided to go ahead and entertain this. So since we're going to do this, look, he can do it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the last time I'm doing a Jamar Chase Panay Sewell thing, period. Because I don't know what it solves. I don't know how productive it is to have this conversation. Okay, so Jamar Chase is everything that Bengals fans would have hoped and dreamed of with the number 5 pick. In fact, because I'm such a realistic stat guy, I have a stat that is going to prove how much of a good start Jamar Chase has gotten off to in his rookie campaign. So there was a graphic that went out last week that was highlighting his first 5 games versus Randy Moss's first 5 games.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to go back and I want to look after week 6. So I did some extra research. Randy Moss, at the end of week 6 in his rookie year in 1998, when we know he set the league on fire, NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, Randy Moss had 27 catches for 527 receiving yards and 6 TDs.
Hmm.
Jamar Chase, let me pull that back up because I want to get this right for all my Jamar Chase lovers out there, has caught the ball 27 times also, 27 catches for 550 receiving yards and 5 TDs. So, off to a very great start if you want to make a comparison. Now, obviously, it takes more than 6 games to encompass a career and some longevity with some success as it relates to the team you're rooting for. But hey, nice comparison through 6 games.
Hey, can't be mad at it. Chris Taylor here said, "Oh yes, sir." He was waiting on this convo on this topic here, and Corey with the laughter. But no, man, I just had to poke fun at it a little bit. Like I said, Lions still, need some work before we get into the good things. The first half after the first drive, where it looks like they really had, a good 10 play script together. It was an 8 play drive, but it looked like they really had the first 10 plays down pat. Looked like they really know what they wanted to do. and how to attack the defense. And then from there, it seemed like the offensive line kept putting us in the hole. As far as first and 15, seconds and 15, the second and 20s due to penalties. So you look at that. You look at the slow start. You would wish you start faster, but all in all, after halftime, they got things together. Seemed like we really got into a rhythm. Seemed like Zach Taylor uh, got into a rhythm, play calling wise, and we seen the offense that we wanted to finally see. 30 plus points, making it look easy in the second half. Your thoughts on what you saw, as far as from the offense there?
Very impressive getting over the 30-point threshold for the first time all year. I thought that was big. Also, not sweating a victory out to the last minute. You're playing a team that, at least on paper and record wise, was inferior to you. So it's a good job of going in there and doing what you're supposed to do. It was a little close in the first half, maybe more so than we thought. But as you said, the game plan coming out of the gate, you could tell those first, 10, 12 plays scripted. Bengals kind of moved the ball with ease. Joe Burrow was able to connect for a nice TD pass with Chris Evans. Had a Chris Evans sighting. Man, that played as college ball, that team up north. Was good to see that. Also got to see Joe Mixon get a little busy in the run and passing game, which I know we both been proponents of because of his versatility. Still having problems with that protection though, and this is the last comment I'm going to say in regards to the Panay Sewell Jamar Chase. It doesn't matter if you think he was the pick or not. I think that Zach Taylor expressed that him and Duke Tobin, the Bengals director of player personnel, decided that both of them were the right pick. They went with Jamar Chase because the Bengals were either 29th or 30th out of 32 teams in plays over 20 yards last year. They wanted more explosiveness. So they really didn't come away necessarily thinking that one was better than the other. They chose what they thought would be better for this offense and to make it more explosive. So either way, it wasn't a knock on either player. We still don't know how Panay Sewell's career is going to turn out up there. Everybody should be happy that we got Uno and the production that he's given us right away. And that's what we need to focus on because we got a very tough task next week going up to play Baltimore. And we're going to need Uno and all hands on deck to take care of business against them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got sorry, I'll get to that one. We got Kenny, a loyal watcher there. Good evening, Who Dey Nation. Good evening, Kenny. Let's see here. We have Chris Taylor said, "Honest truth is, no lineman comes in a Hall of Famer. I believe it takes O line a good 3 years to ripen and become good, average, or bad. Sewell also sat out a year, and that's even harder than coming out and trying to prove your top 10 value. Sewell will get better. Yeah, of course he will get better. I'm not calling him a bust. I never said he was a bust. I understand that. But when I said when we was getting Jamar Chase, I said, look, we can't afford to wait around 3 years for a lineman to become good. We need something that's gonna help us right away. That was my whole gripe.
Okay, and it was, and I remember that. But why is it that every Jamar Chase guy so conveniently points out that Panay Sewell set out a year as if Jamar Chase didn't also? I've never understood the logic behind that particular argument, but okay. And conventional wisdom has said that most wide receivers have not come in and made, an impact right away either. Tyler Boyd didn't do it. I can count on one hand the Anquan Boldens, the Calvin Johnsons, the AJ Greens, that did it. Jerry Rice didn't come in right away and light it up. Chad Johnson didn't do it. Steve Smith didn't necessarily as a receiver. He was dynamic in special teams, didn't come in right away. The longtime Carolina Panther and Baltimore Ravens. There's more guys that don't at the receiver position, and AB, a 6 rounder out of Central Michigan, certainly did not come into the league lighting it on fire for Pittsburgh the way he ended up doing and is still doing with Tampa Bay. I think conventional wisdom, the pick would have been, offensive line. I even had Solomon Wilcox on my platform, Factual Opinions. He kind of agreed with that. I know that's an older line of thinking, but my whole thing is, okay, we look great. We're a more exciting team. Uno, look, I'm looking forward to the gritty just like everybody else is every Sunday. But, we still can't overlook the fact that there are problems up front. There were some protection breakdowns yesterday. Couple where the defensive lineman came clean for Detroit and had some really good shots at Joe Burrow. So it's still an issue. And the overall protection of Joe Burrow is still an issue now. And I've heard every argument, one guy isn't going to fix that and yada, yada, yada. You're right, but you have to start somewhere. and you have to have an anchor somewhere. Be it a Willie Anderson, be it a Anthony Munoz, be it an Andrew Whitworth, be it a Levi Jones, Max Montoya. I can keep going with Bengals offensive linemen because we've actually had some pretty good offensive linemen over the years. So you still have to start somewhere. I think guys like Riley Reef have come in and done really good job stabilizing it. It's still something that needs to be, addressed. Center position is kind of up in the air. Trey Hopkins, I've always thought was more of an athletic, smaller guard that we kind of put at center. And I know he's still coming back from an ACL injury, so you can't really totally write him off right now. It usually takes guys about a year to come back from an ACL and to look like
Yeah.
themselves. So it's still in flux, but I think for the Bengals they made the right pick for what they're trying to do offensively going forward and be more dynamic, and that's where we really want to leave it. Again, I wish Panay Sewell the best up there. Detroit, we probably won't see him again until Thanksgiving. But our Bengals should be the primary focus and the guys that are actually playing in orange and black.
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with that. And like I said, I had to, we had to start
Yeah,
on that topic. Had to get it out the way. Because like I said, I am happy with the pick here. I am happy, with with this team in general. And let's give love also to the defense. They came out with a no nonsense mentality. I understand. The Lions, have offensive line issues. I understand the Lions don't have many weapons on offense outside of Hawkinson. But at the end of the day, this is a team that took Baltimore to the wire. This is a team that, it took Baltimore, who we consider maybe the class of the AFC right now outside of the Buffalo Bills. It took them a 66-yarder just to win the football game against the Lions. So at their place. So for us to go up there really with a focused mindset after kind of a heartbreaking loss to the Packers, in considering we go out there and we're focused, laser sharp, and I think defense really set the tone. They come out, get off the field, we get 7, and then they, like I said, they couldn't run the ball at all. The Lions couldn't run the ball. They couldn't get anything going in the passing game. We was getting after Jared Goff. So, it's just good to see. It's good to see that we take care of business and this young team is actually performing and looking like a veteran team. And you can touch on that there, and we'll get to the comments after that.
Well, and defensively, it's important to give shots out to them because I don't care how pass happy this league gets and fantasy football owners tuning in the games now, shaping what some teams even think about doing draft wise. Defense still wins championships. You got to be able to stop people. And the Bengals have been surprisingly good all the way from training camp throughout. We've touched on this before. We were a little worried with some of the reports that we were getting from camp about the defense stifling the offense, and we're looking around for big name
Right.
players or players that we've become accustomed to in the past, like a Carlos Dunlap or Geno Atkins or Pac-Man Jones. And we're like, I don't see that, but these guys are actually meshing well together. It's year 3 in Sweet Lou's system. You have the guys that fit. Speaking of making the right pick, a lot of people were on the Bengals for not maybe going after Shaq Barrett or some other pass rushers early on in free agency. And the sentiment was that we settled for Trey Hendrickson when we got him, or that some people even thought maybe we overpaid him in free agency. I know you and
Mhm.
I spoke off the record like, man, is he a product of Cam Jordan on the other side of New Orleans with those 13 and a half sacks? Well, he's got 6.5 already through the first 6 weeks of the season. And even when he's not getting to the quarterback, he's still causing problems with his pressure and his presence out there. So he's leading the way. Gotta like what we're doing in the back end still with Jesse Bates and Von Bell from the. But also Awuzie has been a
Oh
very
man.
undervalued pickup. There's been a big difference in the games that Awuzie has played and been healthy in, and we've honestly had to rely on him a lot without Trey Waynes really making a dent other than those 2 games that he appeared in. So I want to give a hats off to the defense too. They were definitely trendsetters in starting the game off the right way.
Yes, yes, yes. And just to get to the comments here, Corey said bull stuff. They went with him talking about Chase. They went with him because Joey told them to. I heard it wasn't so much of him standing on the table as much as people think. Of course, they was like, "Yeah, Chase, my boy. I would love to have him." Like, yeah, but it wasn't like a get chased or I'm mad type of thing. But they end
Yeah,
up
Mike Brown doesn't do that, by the way.
right. Yeah. He picks who he wants to, so it doesn't matter. Kenny Fuss said here, I have to give Detroit credit. They play hard despite being outmatched, but good win for Cincinnati. Absolutely. We have a new watcher here. Said Dia Hawkins. Said linebacker Justin Wilson. I believe she means Logan Wilson. Uh, looking
My boy
smooth.
Dan tuning
And
in from Indianapolis.
yeah, I appreciate that. And and Logan Wilson is the best linebacker we've had since Perfect, maybe. I mean, what he's doing out there, just a playmaker. For him to, yesterday get that ball out, and get that interception, he just finds a way to get the ball. He finds a way to have his nose around the ball or get to the ball. You know, I I'm glad we have finally started to solidify that linebacker room because for years it just seems like we couldn't get it right.
Well,
But
and
now
that's
we.
something that you can't teach,
Mhm.
instinctively as a linebacker, and that's a lot of what linebacker play is: instincts and the right place at the right time. And that's something that Logan Wilson has definitely mastered, and especially on the interception tip. And you have to be versatile enough and athlete enough to defend the pass and the run, these days.
Mm,
So we're really happy with that pick. Again, I always make that joke. He is exactly what the Bengals wanted and thought they were getting when they drafted Nick Vigil.
yep, exactly. So what do you think about this comment here? He said, "I think he might be better than Burfict."
Not yet.
Said, not yet, not yet. I can't give it to him yet. Now I will say in pass coverage, uh, that may be something where he may have the nod. Burfict was more of a thumper, but even though in his prime when Burfict was, really, spearheading those Mike Zimmer defenses, he did make plays in the passing game as well. So,
I got
but
to
he
see
still
at least
got to put a couple seasons together.
couple
To be
seasons, and I got
dominant.
to see him at least maybe once or twice get close to leading the league in tackles like Burfict did at one point. So, yeah.
Well, this is a good point. He's more available than Burfict. Yeah, that's true. Due to
Well,
some
that we
good,
can't dispute.
we can't dispute that at all. We have a comment that says Joe Burrow for president and Jamar Chase for prime minister. Uh, I'll take that. I'll take that. But you know, was there anything that kind of stood out to you in this game at all? Because what stood out to me um, was obviously our interior line, and I just want to touch back on it because we just kind of touched about it. But the depth is starting to get concerning when you talk about Deontay Smith. Now when he's out, he's on IR with a knee. We thought we would maybe see him. Uh, Lord forbid anything happens to Jackson Carmen or Trey Hopkins, because we seen Trey Hill. I mean, obviously it was his first start, but he looked. I mean, he had some great plays. He had some great flashes, but then he also had like a one drive where it just seems like he single handedly just destroyed the drive himself. So for me, it's the depth on the offensive line, and is there a spot where we can possibly get better? Because when you talk about a team that's 4-2, and if you win this game against Baltimore, and we'll talk about Baltimore in a minute, but if you win this game, you got to look at trying to make sure that every hole is filled as much as possible moving forward. Like I'm thinking about, I'm sorry, like I know he's coming off of ACL, but Trey Hopkins, you know, is just not playing well right now. He's graded very low. He's graded the 41st center right now. That means despite all the backups maybe playing, he's rated 41st right now, far as blocking and fit, and that's just not gonna get it done. So far as a team that's looking to make the playoffs, you gotta look at trying to possibly fill those spots with something that's just a little bit sturdy, especially up the middle.
I mean, it's concerning, definitely, and with a team that has playoff aspirations. And you have to think at this point, You're looking at free agent wire, see what's out there. No, the Bengals went a different route. Obviously it's a little concerning with the Trey Wayne situation that they put themselves in position to get Trey Flowers, defensive back from Seattle. That might give you a little indication on the availability of the thinking Trey Waynes may or may not be back or the time frame. So offensive line, you would think we have to start doing the same thing because it's still an issue. But what stood out to me was a couple things. I always try to go counterintuitive, think about things that maybe have not been talked about as much. Um, the tight end position. That's something that worries me too because I don't
Mhm.
personally feel like we have much depth behind CJ Uzama. I saw Drew Sample get into the game and had an opportunity to make a couple plays, and as usual, whether it's the turf monster coming up and grabbing him or just looking out of sorts and a little nervous, it's really, and again, I'm not in the business of singling guys out in particular, but that second round pick that I questioned during the first draft that we had is Zach Taylor taking over the reins in 2019 and taking a tight end that had a reputation as a blocking tight end at Washington, but still didn't do that with the type of physicality or force that I would like to see if you're drafting a tight end that high. That's something that's got to be concerning going forward because what if Uzama, who's coming back off an Achilles, goes down? He looked very dynamic. He had a great touchdown grab, yesterday as well. I think because we also use the tight ends in our blocking packages and motion them over since we don't have a fullback, kind of use them as that H back or lead blocker, especially when we're running that outside zone. That's something that we have to look at, going forward because it's only going to get harder, especially as the weather turns up here, up north, and you got to run the football. And if you're trying to make a playoff run, that I'd be a little concerned about going forward.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. The tight end position is something to worry about. Uh, Probably in the minority here, and I kind of agree with this to some degree. Probably in the minority, but I still thought the game plan sucked. We were just much of a better team, and it showed. Johnny's and Joe's be X's and O's sometimes, and we out there with six tight ends almost the first half. But Joe Burrow kind of explained that today on the when they played back in Soundbite. They were basically saying that when you with the Lions they play a lot of cover two, and what that is the safeties play back far, not a lot of people in the box, so they wanted to run the ball. So that was a point of emphasis for them because they knew it'd be there. And Joe Mixon gashed them. It wasn't like it wasn't there. It was there. The problem was in the first half was the penalties. You can't. And this was a game where I didn't even get on Zach Taylor prior to play calling because there's no really you can't cook up nothing when it's first and 15, second and 15, first and 20 because you holding on first down. You're behind the chains, and that's always tough to get first downs and to keep drives sustained when you're committing penalties. So I kind of give Zach Taylor a break on that, because I understand penalties can definitely get in the way of the game plan and how you want to call a football game too.
That
Uh,
still comes back to discipline, though. So it still kind of
yeah,
points back to
yeah,
Zach Taylor in a way, but it's not going to show up as much when you're playing a team like Detroit. As our viewer said, that is simply outmatched talent wise. So that's something that the Bengals need to clean up because if you get into a game again with another elite opponent like we did against Green Bay and like we are this week against Baltimore, you may not be able to overcome putting yourself behind down and distance like that, and all of a sudden third and 15, and the defense can sit back, pin their ears back, and know what's coming. Those are things you have to avoid when you're playing a good football team.
yep, absolutely. And Corey Booker still comments, and Drew Sample still sucks. Look, I mean, look, man, I'll try to give Drew Sample the benefit of the doubt. I really did. I said maybe he's a good blocker, but right now he's not showing that he does that well. And that's what he was brought here to do. And he just seems like he can't ever make a tough catch. He can't, like you said, the turf monster gets him. I, I just think it's one of those draft picks that we may have to, kind of chalk up as an L, and that happens. You're not going to be perfect all the time, but I think, yeah, I think we have to chalk that up as an L and start to look for another backup tight end and someone that can, help CJ Uzama out for sure. Kenny Fuss says Trey Hendrickson for Secretary of Defense. Secretary of Defense. Yeah, I Trey Hendrickson, look, prove me wrong because we, like you said, we talked off record. I was like, what are they doing? I'm not sure uh, what's going on. Exactly, but hey, it is what it is. We got Demarco Slaughter says y'all
Hmm.
living in the past. Tight ends don't block anymore. But hey, in this system, the tight ends have to be able to block. And tight ends still block. You got George Kittle that block. Kelsey blocks. Like they're just more athletic and more and pass catchers now. But in this offense where you run a lot of 11 personnel, your tight ends better be able to damn block, or they shouldn't be out there. You can
Well,
touch them.
they like you said, they almost have to in Zach Taylor's system because there is no traditional fullback or even H back as far as tight ends being used that way. So they had to get physical. That's funny coming from Demarco, who was actually starting running back my senior year of high school, and we played a lot of two tight end, big body, set. He was a big downhill runner. So even Demarco wants us to evolve a little bit, but got to have a little bit of lead blocking from Mr. Joe Mixon.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You have to, and but like I said, I thought the running game performed well. I thought it performed well. I'm glad to see Chris Evans get some touches as far as carrying the ball, and exploiting his mismatch. We put him out there. A linebacker had to go covering, and it looked
That's a
bad.
mismatch.
It
That's a
looked
mismatch.
it looked bad, man. And we got that touchdown, and that's what I was waiting. I'm like, now I got a question for you.
Okay.
Do we? I mean, do should he take P Ryan touches?
Well, you're asking the wrong person because you know my answer is going to be yes. Uh, I'm really not a big Samaje P. Ryan fan. Like I said, I believe his best ball was played at Oklahoma. Um, I expect a little bit more and want a little bit more versatility out of my running backs. I know off the record, Cam, we talked about this. You are kind of a man. Running backs outdated. You don't need to pay them big money. Yada yada yada. I'm not that type guy. I still want that feature back. That Joe Mixon, that Zeke Elliott, that Darian Henry. Whoever. I want that bell cow. And I think Chris Evans being a spell back for Joe Mixon as long as he can maybe step up and pass protect a little bit better. They really haven't even put Chris Evans out there in that situation to see if he can do so. But we've seen his versatility as a receiver out of the backfield. And listen, I watched him in the Big Ten play at their school up north. I know that Chris Evans can run if you give him some time and open up some holes for him to do so. So I think he does need to supplant him. Got a Trayvion Williams sighting yesterday
Yeah,
as well,
yesterday.
who a lot of people have been calling for over the past few years. I just don't know what P. Ryan does to really add value to the team, and I'm not, trying to crap on him, so to speak. I've just, he just reminds me of another running back we had here for a few years that I felt was taking up space, so to speak, in Cedric Pearman. Like he didn't do anything great. He didn't really do anything
Oh,
good. He was just the jack of all trades, a special team guy, and I'm like, I can fill another roster spot if that's all you're gonna bring to the table.
right. No, and look, I'm not trying to outdate running backs. I'm not trying to crap on running backs. Um, if you do, and I feel like if you do have a special one, and when I mean a special one, he got to be able to run. He got to be able to catch out the backfield. That's what I mean. Didn't pay him. I'm down for that. But or if you're like Derrick Henry, you know what I mean, where you're gonna get 15 to 1600 yards from him toting the ball. But I feel like if you're someone is like, okay, so Mixon can catch out the backfield. He's versatile. I don't mind that. McCaffrey can do it. I don't mind that. Dalvin Cook. I don't mind that. Kamara. I don't mind that. That's fine. Derrick Henry, of course. But when you start get the guys that can, get you maybe 1100 yards, 1200 yards, and don't give you nothing in the passing game, to me, that's like you can find those. We know you can find those. When you have a solid enough line, you can find a guy back there that can get you 1000 to 1100 yards, and pay him less. That's how I feel. But when you got somebody like Joe Mixon, like you said, Zeke Elliott, when you're top 5 or 6 running back, yeah, I feel like you do. You can
Which
pay
Joe
him.
Mixon obviously is, but that's my whole point with the P Ryan thing. I just think that at this
And
point,
Nick Chubb, yeah,
Chris Evans should be, supplanting him and at least get more touches. I mean, this guy preseason, you wanted to temper your expectations because you're like it's preseason. But even when he's coming to the game, I'm like, look at him, man. Like the guy's an athlete, the guy's a playmaker.
yes,
Put the ball in his hand. There's nothing wrong with that. The last time the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, I know it was ages ago. Nobody wants to talk about it. Bengals had 3 running backs that year. They had James Brooks and Ickey Woods who went to the Pro Bowl, and another running back who I won't mention because of his troubles, but actually I will. Stanley Wilson, played a major role and added another 500 yards, on the ground. So it's never a bad thing. You see some of the teams like Dallas who, has something going with the Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard mix that they have going down there. DeMarco just mentioned Nick Chubb and, Kareem Hunt, who just came up a little lame and a little hurt. But, you've seen what Cleveland's been able to do with that dual-headed monster up there. It's not a bad thing to put the ball in the hands of your playmakers.
not at all, not at all. And and sometimes that's the best key. Sometimes you get them in space and let them do the work. That's what we got them there for. And you know, I was just like I said, I'm just glad to see the offense finally gain some traction because we're gonna need it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're 4-2, and next week is a big division game. You know what I mean? We had you know, the Lions game, and before we get into Baltimore, because I really want to get into that game. Do you have any game balls on offense or defense for this Lions game?
Well, keeping in line with most of Cincinnati, why don't we just give another ball to Uno, man? He didn't get in the end zone, but had pretty exciting fade route on the sideline, and continues to be a matchup nightmare. And also, I guess I would go ahead and give it to Joe Burrow again. Came out, established some rhythm early, got us on the board right away, which I think helped set the tone. So even when the offense did hit a little bit of trouble. It wasn't panic mode, and he settled everybody back down. He completed some balls to C.J. Uzama for a touchdown. Got Joe Mixon into the end zone. So we'll give it to Joey B again.
All right. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm gonna go with Joe Mixon. I feel like Joe Mixon ran as well as he's ran since probably like week 1. Far as not necessarily not far as running hard or anything like that, but just the moves he was making guys miss, catching balls out the backfield. He was heavily involved, and that's the Joe Mixon that I really want to see moving forward. Is using him in the passing game as well. It's no reason why Joe Mixon can't get 3 or 4 catches a game.
Now
Uh,
defensively,
and yeah, and defensively, on far as the game ball, I'm gonna go with Trey Hendrickson. You know, nonstop motor, getting after Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff started to see ghosts for a second. Um, I'm just I'm loving what we're doing overall. I'm not sure we got a YouTube visitor here. So next week we see what y'all truly about. Absolutely, absolutely we will. But who you have on defense as far as your game ball?
well, it's hard to argue against Trey Henderson with his production and that high energy motor. But I'm going to go Uzier getting back out on the field. He made several deflections and plays in the passing game, and even came up and made some great tackles. And he has really proven his worth. A very underrated signing to start the year, and he's kind of become the Bengals' #1 corner. So definitely going to give him a game ball.
Oh, okay, that's my guy. This is he watching on YouTube though. This is my guy Jay Coop. You remember Jay Coop? He is always a loyal watcher. But he's definitely tuning in to us. So he a Bengals. Yeah, he's not. He don't care too much for the Bengals, but I do respect. He supports us, man. So I really really do enjoy that, man. I appreciate you a lot. But next week will show us everything. Next week will show us everything, and Lou. has finally built. Lou has put this defense in place to try to stop Lamar Jackson. This is an offense in the Ravens that has just kept Lou up at night. We can't seem to figure out this Lamar Jackson guy. Uh, and honestly, ever since Lamar Jackson's been a Raven, we haven't been able to touch him. We haven't been able to touch him, and that's not like us because when Marvin was here, we used to dominate the Ravens. So to see them dominate us now, I'm not happy about it. I'm ready to try to get back to us beating the Ravens.
Well, you have an
What do we got to
opportunity.
do?
You got an opportunity on Sunday. As far as figuring out this Lamar Jackson puzzle, that's something all other 31 defensive coordinators are trying to figure out in the NFL. So we're not by ourselves in that boat. Also, want to shout out my man DeMarco for tuning in, also because he's also not a Bengals guy. He is a
Your
loyal,
Bronco guy.
yeah, loyal Denver Broncos fan. So appreciate the love. But as far as trying to figure out Lamar Jackson, I've said a couple things need to take place. Well, maybe two or three things. Number one, you have to force him to be a pocket passer. Now, and I want to big up Lamar Jackson, similar to what Keyshawn Johnson and others have been saying. That's not to act like he's sitting up here running around like Johnny Football and, making all these unorthodox plays and not beating you from the pocket occasionally, because he will. And he can throw the ball very well. Now, there are elements of him throwing where he doesn't have as greatest success, where if you're talking about, outside the numbers and deep down the field, forcing him to, go to, his second, third, progression and keeping him in the pocket that way where he's not extending the play gives you a better shot. Probably going to have to put a spy out there on him, a guy that is assigned to Lamar Jackson at all times. Wherever he goes, you go. And also, you just have to hope that maybe he's a little off that
Honestly, yes. You
game.
have to hold people off. And what you have to do with Lamar is you have to get some turnovers from him. But when you get those turnovers, you got to capitalize. And I'm not talking about with 3, I'm talking about with 6. That's the key to beating the Ravens. You have to get 6 when you get the turnover. He had 2 interceptions against the Chargers, but they
Yeah.
couldn't capitalize. So it didn't matter, but you have to capitalize on quarterbacks like a Lamar Jackson,
Well,
quarterbacks
Logan
like Aaron Rodgers.
Wilson,
You got to.
we've mentioned Logan Wilson a couple times. I think he's going to be very key because what he specializes
Stop.
in, playing in space and making interceptions and playing the passing lanes or being athletic enough to ball hawk and get to a ball carrier, that's what he's going to have to do this week, more so than ever. And it's going to be critical. His number one target, speaking of Lamar Jackson, we know is Mark Andrews, the tight end for
Mhm.
Baltimore. You're
Yes.
gonna have to keep a body on him and figure out. I don't care if there's some high-low action. You chip him at the line of scrimmage, let Von Bell or Jesse Bates take over in the back end. But there's something that the Bengals are gonna have to pay attention to. Also, he said, "Who do you spy?" Um,
You're like,
you
who
know,
would you
it,
put as the spy? I think that would be a Logan Wilson job. Corey Brooker says I'll spy him with Hilton. Uh, that's gonna be you have to try to keep an eye on him. And Corey Booker, kind of repeated what you said. Only person I've ever seen beat Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, and that's true. I mean, when Lamar Jackson on this game, he's unstoppable, and I don't even like really calling him a quarterback. Not because he runs a lot. He's just a football player.
yeah.
He can throw the ball, he can run the ball, he'll do anything what it takes to win.
See, and
Uh,
that's a tough one because I'm sitting here still thinking after they asked that question, like, who would you spy him? Like,
yeah.
Mike Hilton is a good option, but I think he's so good, in the slot and playing, opposing teams slot wide receiver. I don't really want to take him off of that.
Mhm.
Uh, you really don't want to devote a safety like Jesse Bates or
I
Von
was
Bell.
gonna say Von Bell and maybe rotate
Maybe
Allen back. I you know,
maybe Von Bell because he's more accustomed to playing in the box and
yeah,
likes to be in that area. Definitely wouldn't take Jesse Bates out of his free safety spot. To do that, need him to ball hawk and maybe clean up some plays. So it's something that I'm glad I'm not Sweet Lou this week and have to figure out.
Yes, yes, we have to figure it out. You know that read option game, and Jay Coop said he's a quarterback. Give him his respect. That's why he on what he on this year. He is tired of people saying he's not a QB. Look, I respect him as a quarterback. He is,
I'm
but
with it.
he really is. He's a football player though.
I'm
Like,
with him though, because there are some undertones to that also that we don't have to
yeah,
get
it is.
into. But
Yeah,
that that is part of why I do want that distinction, and shout out to the University of Louisville where Lamar Jackson went and won a Heisman Trophy in college. They are retiring his number next month, and he will be the second player in Louisville history behind the great Johnny Unitas to receive that honor. So much respect to him as a quarterback. I remember when he came out in the draft and they were trying to work him out at wide receiver. A lot of people gave him heck because his mom was his agent, and they made the decision early on of like, no, he's a quarterback. Period.
yep,
I'm not working out at anything else, and I respect him for doing that. I like Lamar Jackson as a person, so I understand what he's saying. Give him his credit as a QB, and he is, and he's generational. But we need to figure out something on Sunday to slow that ascent down, because as you said, he's been a Bengal killer, kind of taking over for what Big Ben used to be in that regard.
yes, yes, yes. And we just gotta find a way, man. We gotta find a way to slow him down. And also, this is the thing. And before you get to another key point, as far as us trying to win this football game, props to Baltimore for not trying to change this game. Yes, they fit his skill set, not try to fit his skill set into a box. So yeah, shout out to them as well. But the key also being Baltimore, we're gonna have to pick up that zero blitz. They love to bring the house. Um, and what bringing the house means you got to win your individual matchups. And you also have to pick up the blitz. But
Now,
so
if I can interrupt for a second, now this is where all the Uno maniacs out there should be very excited,
yes,
because now you have a plethora of options, especially with Uzama coming back as strong as he has at the tight end position. Where if the Ravens do want to crowd the line of scrimmage and they do want to send everybody like they did last year, we got guys out in space that will win their individual matchups, and no one is better at doing that than Mr. Uno Jamar Chase himself, winning that one-on-one matchup.
yep, absolutely. It's because it's separation when the ball is in the air. It's definitely definitely something different for sure. But yeah, you have a chance to win your individual one-on-one matchups. Take care of the football. If we can run the football a little bit. Let's try to get up early. Let's try to make Lamar. I look. I know he came back against Kansas City. I know he came back against the Colts. But make him try to come back again. That's that's your best chance because when they're up, look, Ravens are your prime front runner team.
Yeah.
Don't let them get up 14 nothing, 17 nothing on you. Game is over. The game is over. You're gonna get crushed because that's what they know how to put the foot on the throat of a team. On any team, if they get up, the game's over. So make sure you come out ready to go. You can't come out sleep because if Ravens get up 14 on you, you're gonna lose 31-6 or something crazy like that because they don't let the foot up off the gas.
And that's another hidden key when we were talking about what can you do to stop Lamar Jackson. Well, as far as maybe containing him a little better, if you could get up early and you could put some pressure on Baltimore, where
Hmm.
there are a lot of situations where they have to throw versus them, choosing to throw the ball. That's an underrated, mechanism to stop Lamar Jackson. He's I don't want to say not as good, but there are some challenges when the guy has to drop back and he's throwing the ball. And that's where a lot of teams have had some success against him when they put him in passing situations or they falling behind by more than one, score, but the other team isn't letting up. That's where you start to see some of the things that he might need to work on. So that might be an area if the Bengals can get up that they might be able to exploit.
Yep, and Jay Coop says here, I'm gonna say this: if y'all don't play cool 4 quarters of football this week, it's gonna be a problem. Y'all are a second half team, and this needs not the game. This is not the game for that. I agree. I agree. You gotta play 4 quarters of football. Can't play a half. Like I said, If we wait till the second half, it'll be way too late. They pin their ears back, and you talk about them blitzes coming from everywhere, and that's what will be happening if we get down quickly. Corey Brooker says Queen and Harrison coming. Hey, guys, make me nervous for Joe. Well, okay, so now we bring up some little antsy there about the line situation and the blitzes. Look, man, of course there's concern. I've never said there wasn't. I thought, like I said, I was hoping that we did more in free agency. Um, as far as the line goes. But hey, I look at it like this, and I kind of looked at some stats there. There are a lot of offensive lines across the league that are giving up a lot of sacks. And I'm looking at it, and I'm not saying I'm excusing the Bengals for not addressing properly. I'm not doing that. But I'm looking at it across the board. It seems like offensive line play is down to me, outside of a handful of teams. I mean, is it because I feel like pass rushers are better than ever these days. Is there kind of like a thing where are we seeing more pass attempts, so we're seeing more sacks, less room for error for linemen,
I
or
think that's
is it
part of
thing
the
that where we're seeing
problem.
kind of a change in the guard where these pass rushers are kind of like
I think
overwhelming? They're 6'5", 270, running 4.4s, coming off the edge. I mean,
I
you know,
I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. But when you have a league that is becoming so pass oriented, and it really has to be a team like Dallas or Tennessee that makes a concerted effort to run the football. Other than that, when you got guys throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game, and then again, as I mentioned, the defense knows that it's coming, yeah, they can pin their ears back. And these mutants that won the genetic lottery that you got out here now, and these Chase Youngs and everybody else out here, they're preying on that, and they're ready to fly off the edge and come when they know that that's what the offense is going to do. So that's part of it, but I also think that maybe offensive linemen, I don't want to say they're being devalued because you still see left tackles making a lot of good money in the NFL.
making quarterback money.
Yeah, so they know the difference between elite protection, but I think a lot of teams are trying to get by. And what you see is even teams like Kansas City, who did make a concerted effort during the offseason to upgrade, but they got all the way to the Super Bowl and they had a problem, because of injuries, and it caught up to them. I think maybe their thing is fatigue, really, that's catching them playing a lot of football over the past 3 or 4 years and going deep into the playoffs. But, it should still be a concern for everybody. I don't see New England having a great offensive line. I'm just nitpicking at some teams across the league that, are used to winning that are not now. That seems to be a common thread. I personally have not seen too many teams make a deep run or one win a Super Bowl that has a horrible offensive line. Like if viewers or anybody else or Cam, you can tell me a team that won a Super Bowl with a lackluster offensive line, please point them out because I don't ever remember it happening.
No, I can't remember that at all. You can have maybe a shoddy defense, a suspect offense, but overall your offensive line, both lines got to be pretty much, you know,
Yeah,
pretty stout. You gotta be stout in the trenches. Like I said, Corey Booker said, "Remember your best athletes are now your D linemen." Which is true. I mean, it's true nowadays. Like I said, they running 4.4s and 6'5", 270, and you asked you to block that off the edge. That's just it's tough. It really is. Um, Now, so with the Baltimore game, obviously we got to stop the run. Obviously we protecting Joe is a huge concern. Because they're coming with the zero blitz. Um, is there an X factor that you feel like for this game that this is the guy that can make an impact and that can help us, will us to victory?
well, starting offensively, I think the X factor, well, there'll be two. And I normally don't do this with skill guys because I still say the team that blocks and tackles the best is the team that wins. We get caught up in the other stuff, but usually that's what happens. But I'm gonna go with two wide receivers. Number one, everybody's favorite, Uno, and his ability to win those one-on-one matchups and adjust in the air and the natural chemistry that he has with Joe Burrow already. And I'm gonna go with another guy that has been a Ravens killer since he got in the league that also plays wide receiver and is gonna have a chance to make some plays, and that's Mr. Tyler Boyd, because there's levels to this. But particularly in that slot, Tyler Boyd can really give the Ravens some problems, especially when they go with that zero blitz and they're sending everybody. I like his matchup, whoever he's on.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I do too. I was gonna say, Tyler Boyd is what's like everybody on Tyler Boyd here. I'm telling my brother-in-law to watch for Boyd. Boyd can have a huge game. Boyd can have a huge game. And I'm looking for us to get Boyd involved early, man. Even though I'm liking the way the offense is going, it just seems like we're not connected with Tyler Boyd enough. And maybe hey, we got so many weapons. Maybe you got to pick and choose where he when he goes off. Um, but I would just like to see him get more involved because him at that slot receiver. I don't see why he can't be um, 100 catch guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, from that slots position because he can get open. He runs great routes. Um, from that, 15 yards and in, he's pretty much money, and we gotta be able to use him. We gotta find a way to make sure we design some plays for him to get open and get involved early.
And
Uh, go
defensively, I think that Wuzier is going to play a big role, and especially when he matches up against a Hollywood Brown. Because again, we know they want to go to Mark Andrews, the tight end. Brown seems to be, their best, flat out wide receiver option. We know he wants to stretch the field. I don't think Jesse Bates will give up too much over top as far as that. He's a great ball hawk. But Trey Hendrickson is going to play a key role also because it's going to be his job to set the edge as a defensive end. So he's been very aggressive, and effective aggressiveness so far throughout the year has been shown to get to the passer. Well, he's going to have to do a little bit more than that. He's going to have to rush under what they say control on Sunday to not give Lamar Jackson those lanes to take off and give us some real trouble. So, being careful while still being aggressive and setting the edge is going to be key.
Yep, absolutely. Anthony Scott says, I think the Bengals have to go deep on Baltimore and use their aggression against them. Hopefully, line can hold up, beat them with double move. Yeah, I mean, one way you could beat Baltimore is, you could beat them. You could beat them deep. They beat up in the secondary. They could be scored on. Like I said, you just gotta pick up that blitz. They're gonna be coming. They're gonna come. They're gonna come after Joe Burrow. You better believe that. Uh,
We've had a
we just
lot of
gotta be able to
success
hold up.
against Baltimore, though, even in recent years, when the Bengals maybe didn't have good teams, when Andy Dalton was leading the team, it seems like we had a lot of success with seam routes because again,
Yeah.
the Ravens are bringing everybody up. Those guys in the slot, and they moved AJ around. Tyler Boyd sent the Ravens home a few years ago when Buffalo sent us those Buffalo wings for getting us back,
Yep.
getting them back into the playoffs.
Yep. I
That's
remember that.
that's key because again, you got linebackers and everybody coming up to the line like, so what? We're coming no matter what. Go on and hit that guy off the scene, and that's where the emergence of somebody like CJ Uzama could play, great dividends on Sunday because he's in a rhythm. He's been involved in the offense, so I think the Bengals have options to exploit them. Defensively, I'm still worried about Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson and that end and what we're going to do with our defense against them.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, and at some point you got to be able to slow him down. And I'm hoping with Lou got his pieces. He got the defense is dialed in. They're all in. So hopefully we can, get a game plan together, slow him down, make this a ball game, and we figure out how to win this. So it's that time. Hold on, we got a subject. It say, it seems like your boy Joe been throwing them behind and high. I haven't seen that. He's made maybe he had a bad throw here or there, but you look at Joe Burrow, he's a close to almost 70% completion percentage. I think he's at like 67, 68. Um, yeah, Joe is as accurate as they come.
I'm not
Uh,
mad at Joe. Now, the only thing I did notice at the start of the game, and it still hit Uno, in both hands, is Joe
yeah.
does have a tendency, at least early in games that I've seen, to where he does like to try to zip balls in and kind of force it to a certain degree. I would
Mhm.
like to see him scale that back a little bit, but you still want him to be aggressive and to play the way that he plays. But in a game against an elite opponent like them, you want to limit your turnovers and make sure you're leading guys and not, jamming it in there, so to speak, unless it has to be or down at the goal line, something like that. So that would be my only criticism. But overall, Joe's put us in position to win a bunch of times.
Yep, 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 yep. And says Anthony Scott here says I'm very curious to see Lou's game plans against Lamar. He seems to have some better pieces to work with now. Definitely better pieces and pieces, that's hungry, and wants it. So that's very important. All right, we always have to have a prediction here in Life in the Jungle. I predicted. Was I first last time?
I think you were first
I
last
was
time.
first last time. What you got for me, man? Bengals, Ravens.
Man, trying to pick with my head instead of my heart, which is hard when it comes to the Bengals.
That's hard.
Um,
Are we going to have our first prediction of what's coming up short here in Life in the Jungle?
um, no, not this week. I thought about it, but no, I'm going Bengals 21, Ravens 20.
Mm, that's
Not
close.
not as high scoring as some people may think.
Look, man. This is tough. You're right.
Cam,
It's tough.
Cam sounds like he wants to put him on the short end of the stick, man.
I'm not gonna put. I'm not gonna do it. I refuse to do it. Look here. I believe in the Cincinnati Bengals this year. I believe in them because you know everything they worked for as far as the Zach Taylor the last couple years is finally coming to fruition. They're finally seeing wins behind what the coaching staff has been preaching, what they've been doing, and how hard they've been working. Bengals will find a way to win this football game. They will find a way to win this football game. I have Bengals 24. I have Ravens 20. I think we find a way to do it, and it's going to be on the last second drive by Joe Burrow to win us this football game.
That's gonna be torture watching that, but
Yeah, no,
uh,
no, no. The game is gonna have us on our edge of our seat. We gonna be stressed out. We gonna be sweating. It ain't gonna be. First of all, Bengals don't give us nothing easy. That's not. But that's why I cherished this past weekend because it was easy. I sat back, I chilled with my legs crossed, my arms folded. It was the first
thank
time I watched the
Detroit.
games like that. First time I watched the game like that in a while where we just dominated. I ain't have to worry about nothing. It was cool. But Cincinnati sports in general don't give us that. So we gonna sweat this W out. But we gonna find a way to get it. I got Corey Booker said you guys are oozing with confidence. I sense a little sarcasm there, but
I
hey,
21 to 20 ain't exactly oozing. That's admitting that it's going to be tough either way. But just I think the Bengals will find a way based on how they're playing this year and the way that this team is gelling together. But it's certainly something that I went back and forth and I thought about, man, do I really see Baltimore winning this game? And again, it's a winnable game for both, and the Bengals could very well lose this game close, or if they come out and
get
don't have their
smacked.
stuff together right away, it could get out of hand. So there's a lot of possibilities, but I am confident in the overall attitude and trajectory of this team and still winning in spite of some questionable in-game decision making from the head man in charge. So yeah,
Hey, yeah, yeah. Like I said, man, I really just think it's a new team. They have a new mindset. These ain't same old guys that's used to losing. These are new guys to get. And you know what I noticed that we bringing guys in that came from places that's used to winning. Mike Hill in Pittsburgh, Trey Hendrickson Saint, like things like that. we're bringing, even last year, you bring in an old veteran like Mike Daniels was there on the practice squad. Packers. Those are guys that used to winning. So I remember him. I think he was on Good Morning Football. Mike Daniels. Everybody, around here, the big talk is, oh, we got to beat Pittsburgh. Mike Daniels was like, Pittsburgh, like, I'll come from a place where we beat Pittsburgh anytime we see them. Like, who is Pittsburgh? Like, so to have that mindset now, is huge. So, this is a different football team. I don't see the Bengals really just going out and getting blew out in any football game. I think this will be a good football game, and one that we're gonna put our stamp on the league, and now they're gonna have to respect us.
and
Because
that's
now we're starting to get a little talk about us, but now they're gonna have to respect us after this week.
and that's very important. And like you said, Joe Burrow's confidence and belief, I believe, has infused the entire organization. And where it kind of teeters on a little bit of arrogance, but he's just cocky and confident in what he does and his ability to lead. And I think that helps, guys have that same attitude, throughout the rest of the building. Also, you got guys that, we haven't talked about much, at least this particular episode, a Sam Hubbard, who has a lot of pride, born and raised in the city of Cincinnati, played his high school ball here. Him and Von Bell also continued their winning ways at another university, up 71, where they became accustomed to winning. And I think that, also helps infuse confidence in everybody else. There's an expectation. Even Zach Taylor, I think his locker room speeches can be, leave a little bit to be desired, shall we say, sometimes, but I have heard him repeatedly this year say, hey, it's an expectation. We're not surprised by that. We knew we were supposed to come up here and beat Detroit. And when you hear certain affirmations like that and you actually get the results that you want on the field, that infuses confidence.
Yep, exactly. And hey, I think we're gonna do it. I think we got a chance to pull this off. I do. It's gonna be close. But like I said, this is a different bunch. I really do think this team is focused. And anytime you're a little bit better defensively, you got a chance. You're just not letting teams rip and run up and down the field. And that's what Joe Burrow said. We got a defense, and with that defense, we're gonna be in every ball game. So you know what? Pharaoh got us at 21-20. I got us at 24-20 on the last second drive by Joe Burrow to ice the game. So, hey, another episode here of Life in the Jungle. It's Coach Cam. It's the Pharaoh, Alex Brantley. Make sure y'all continue to tune in. We'll drop it on Spotify. Till next time, we out.